Dee Caffari is one of the most experienced and accomplished offshore sailors in the world. In 2006, she was the first woman to sail non-stop solo the wrong way around the world. In 2009, she went the other way around, this time in the Vendée Globe, finishing 6th. And most recently, she skippered a Volvo 65 in the Volvo Ocean Race. She's been around the world 6 times. But what I and many other people also admire about Dee is that she's a very down-to-earth sailor. Now, this season sees her move into the increasingly popular double-handed scene with a new season that culminates in the Fastnet Race. And what I'm really excited about is that she's going to be documenting her season for PlanetSail. So with that in mind, it was time to go and have a chat to find out a bit more. This is your new boat. Well,
my new toy.
It's very shiny, isn't it?
She's shiny. Well, she's only a year old.
Really?
She was launched May 2020.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we'll come on to that in a little bit. But first of all, what have you been up to? We haven't seen you for a little while, and it looks like you've been quite busy.
Well, last year and now committed for this year is all about the double-handed sailing. So I feel like it's putting all my sailing experience into one package.
There's a real growth in shorthanded sailing, isn't there? I mean, it's not just in the UK, but worldwide it's picking up.
Massively. I think shorthanded sailing, and I think almost the pandemic has influenced it as well, because it's been possible to go double-handed sailing. It's been possible to have races happen. So it's just given more opportunity, and I think people are realising that actually only coordinating 2 people is a bit easier sometimes.
When people get into it, they realise that it's really quite fulfilling as well. There's always something going on. You never get bored. You're never sitting on the windward rail for 12 hours doing nothing.
Absolutely, and sometimes I wish there were a few other people to help me out recently, especially when the breeze is up. But you're right, there's always something going on. It's all down to you. It's about really good teamwork, and it's super competitive out there. And those people that have been sailing double-handed for some time really do know how to coordinate their boat and set it up, and actually us newbies are getting punished for all the mistakes we're making really quickly on the water. So I'm loving the competitive spirit. I love the action, and these boats have been great fun.
Who are you sailing with?
Young lad, James Harayda, just 22. He's a product of the British Keelboat Academy.
Oh, is he?
And he asked for some assistance because he was getting this new boat last year. And I said, I've got a bit more time on my hands, and we started sailing together, and it's been a really complementary partnership, and we're committed to this year as well, and it's going really well. I'm really enjoying sailing with him. He's got some good skills, and he's really keen to learn, and I'm quite keen that each session on the water we debrief and we write down the lessons so that we try not to make the same mistakes again.
And who are you up against? Who's in the fleet?
It's a really competitive fleet. I mean, if we take the 3300s alone, which is the boat we're sat on today that we're racing, we've got Shirley Robertson on the water with Henry Bombay. We've got Stuart Childerley with Kelvin Rawlings. These are people that are known for medals and world championships and have some really good skills. But there's about 10 3300s altogether in the UK, and many of us are out there training now as well. So if you make a mistake, you're really punished. But there's also quite a few other boats, and I would say that the Fastnet this year, the entries for the double-handed really shows the growth in the sport. So I think 2 years ago there were something like 30 entries. This year we're looking at 90.
Oh, really?
So it's almost a third of the fleet.
Really?
So it really does show the growth of the sport, and now we've got a huge competition out there on the water. Pressure's on.
That's amazing, isn't it? I hadn't realised it was quite that big this year. That's incredible. The other thing that strikes me that's interesting about the double-handed fleet is that there's a real... You mentioned some of the rock stars. You're one of them, obviously, but rock stars like Shirley and Stuart and those people. There's a sort of coming together with the amateur sailors as well, because there's been, certainly down here on the south coast for quite a few years now, there's been a big steady growth in amateur double-handed sailing, and that's sort of coming together under one roof or on one race course now in a way that we haven't really been used to over the years. Got quite used to Grand Prix, a polarisation of the sport, with Grand Prix sailors going off and doing their thing in the Med and the amateur sailors doing their thing back here. But is that noticeable? Do you see that on the water?
I think it's really helped grow the the visual of it. And you're right, you know, 2 boats along here, we've got Bellino that win the double-handed walk series year in, year out. They really know their boat, they really know how to make their boat go. And now, at the end of a downwind, we're ahead of them. At the end of an upwind, they're ahead of us. And we're competing on the water, and we're all together, all doing it together. And I think we have lost the them and us scenario that people had fallen into. And actually, it's really nice. I think it's refreshing for those people on the water, just seeing that, you know, we're all the same people battling the same issues and making the same mistakes.
And I think the other thing that strikes me is actually the way that the boats are changing. I know this boat in particular, as you know, Sunfast 3300, I tested this, not this particular one, but one of the first ones last year, and went out and did a feature on it. And I was really struck by how well suited it is to, I mean, it comes in a long line of double-handed designs, doesn't it? But with each iteration, they seem to get better and better at creating boats that are easy to sail with just 2 people.
Yeah, and I think we live in a world now where we face these restrictions, we've got travel limitations, we've got, you know, constant constraints that are making it difficult for that old picture of 10 people lined up over the side hiking to exist. So actually this is a way of sailing where you don't have to meet all those requirements and your racing will carry on. And I think that's what's given people a lot of confidence. Oh, well, I'll get one of these boats because I know I can go sailing and my race will happen.
Yeah, no, it's very appealing. So tell me a bit about the series that you did then, because you did a bit of filming for us, which we're going to run. But tell us about what the series involved.
So we've done a spring series, 3 weekends of just round the cans racing, races lasting around 6 to 8 hours, just within the Solent. And the first 2 were just with Rourke, and then the last weekend was with Sork, the solo offshore club. And those cumulative points went together for the series.
So tell us a bit about how the series went.
Well, bizarrely, we've had northeasterly breeze in the Solent, which is quite unusual, and it's been consistent for 2 weekends, and then the final weekend was a bit of a lottery, really light airs. So the first weekend we came second to Aries, which is Stuart and Kelvin, and the second weekend we came first, so we and Aries came second, so we went into the third weekend on equal points. So the pressure was on for the final race. It was really light airs.
Good, excellent. Well, I think we should have a look at how you got on in the last race.
Hi everybody, so we are on our 3rd Spring Series double-handed race, and today the race is being organised by Sork. And so the double-handed group are going first, and then the single-handed sailors are going in the second start. Our course is pretty much lots of windward lewards in the western Solent, starting from Gurnard. The forecast is for a little bit of breeze now. Our start's at 10. We've probably got about 2 hours of breeze, and then it's pretty much going to die out to nothing. So it will be interesting. We've got 7 knots allegedly out here, but I'm going to show you around, and it looks pretty light and fickle. So I think we're going to have to work pretty hard to keep the boat moving today. We have 2 knots of breeze, 8 minutes to the start. Lots of tide going west out at that end of the start line, hence everybody is hanging out at the beach because there's a lot less tide here. So I feel we will be visiting the beach today. A little wing on wing action. Boat feels pretty stable and pretty fast like this. Who knew? 7 knots of breeze, 4 knots of boat speed, sadly 2 knots over the ground. So we've crossed over the Solent. There's Henry Bombay and Shelley Robertson just ahead of us. Aries is just approaching the mark, the white spinnaker by the yellow mark. A couple of red kites ahead of us. We're kind of in the middle of the pack, which is a bit disappointing, but we've still got some time. And we go upwind from here, downwind, upwind, downwind, upwind. I'm not sure how many times. On the second downwind leg, it's a little bit shorter. And as you can see over my shoulder, a really annoying 3300 is just trying to sit on our wind. We're still clear at the moment, but we don't want to come up and defend because we don't want to get into the deep water because the tide's against us. So we're in 1 metre of water, trying to stay out the tide, getting it down, and they just need to go away. Final kite was dropped. Now we're going into the finish. And there's Shelley and Henry. Race is on. We're being lifted all the way as the wind is getting lighter. How far away is the mark? 0.4. So the yellow buoy just on that boat's bow is our finish line. It has to bear 315. It's 0.4 of a mile away. Those two are some of the single-handed boats that did a slightly shorter course. And there we have Aries and Tigress. Don't forget Aries and us are on tide for first place for points. And we're just floating around. Who can float quickest to the finish with the tide against us? That's the sorry state of affairs. 1 knot. Thought it was the last kite hoist, but it wasn't, and I hadn't packed the one before. Luckily we had another one ready to go. We were actually going backwards, getting further from the mark, and it was all a bit depressing because we had another 6 hours of tide to go. And then everybody on the mainland shore came in with a new westerly breeze that we didn't know was coming. And so it was a bit of panic, kite ready, kite hoisted, and then literally everyone was converging on the finish. It was really hard to see under the spinnaker who was ahead, who's behind, and we've got to declare it. And the big news for us is we were seconds behind Aries, and we're tied on points. We rate just slightly differently, even though we're the same boat, because they have ballast, we don't, and different sails. And we don't know if we've done enough. We managed to win the series, so I'm triumphant by 1 second. So when they say every second counts, they are not kidding. Yes, by the skin of our teeth, we managed to make that happen.
That's really good. Well done. Nice work.